Hello everyone. On our today's episode of Top Talk, we have Dr. Padmaja Palekar to discuss with us different aspects of goal settings process. A fellow from Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore, Dr. Palekar comes with more than 2 decades of rich experience in human resource management. She has been an entrepreneur for the past 10 years and provides HR consulting services to startup and mid-sized organizations across various industry sectors. Her expertise lies in the HR systems and processes areas: leadership development, organizational design and development, and change management. She is also a keen researcher and continues contributing to research activities with her professors and mentors at IIMB. She has presented her research at various international conferences like the European Academy of Management Conference and the International Human Resource Management Conference. She also has a number of publications in leading academic and practitioner journals to her credit. Apart from her professional engagement, she is also a doting mother, aspiring baker, and a fitness enthusiast. So a very warm welcome to you, Dr. Palekar, to our Top Talk.
Thank you, Dipnita. Thank you so much for this lovely introduction. It's a pleasure being on your show.
Dr. Palekar, as we know that goal settings plays a very important role in the performance management process of any organization, right? So in your opinion, should goal settings be a collaborative process between the managers and employees? And if yes, then how does it help the organization with that?
Okay, so first of all, we have to understand what is a goal, right? So goal is, in a very layman's term, it is something which you set out to achieve, right? If you don't know where you're going to go, you just follow a blinded path, you might end up into a ditch or you might reach the skies, right? And that is the whole reason why we set goals for ourselves, be it professionally, be it personally, be it for anything. Right? So that being the context of a goal. Now, in an organizational setup, a goal is something which every individual has, but they have to align it with the organization goals. Otherwise, there is not going to be any synergy. Now, take an example where, say, for example, Grosum is set out to build a platform, right? You as an individual is, say, a marketing executive with Grosum. If your goal is to be a good marketing executive, you could do various things apart from promoting marketing, apart from promoting Grosum. Right. Then there is no synergy or there is no alignment, right? And therefore, it is very important that there is a synergy in between what the individual employees of the organizations have to the goals of the organization. Now, typically, traditionally, I would say the way goal setting process has worked over the years has been that there has been an organization goal, or the organization does some sort of strategic planning. They have a 5-year plan, a 15-year plan, a 20-year plan, or whatever it is. And based on that, they transfer or cascade these goals down to the organization at different levels. So some of them would have only departmental goals, and a lot of times you would see that there is no connection in between what the organization goal is and what the individual goal is. That is because the cascading has not happened well, right? But it is extremely important that the individual goals or the departmental goals are aligned to the strategic goals of the organization. Right? So that everybody is going in a synergetic form to achieve what they set out to achieve. Now, having said that, there has to be a synergy in between the organization goals and the department goals and the individual goals. It is imperative that the managers or the top management cascades down the goals to the department heads. The department heads then cascade it down to the individuals or the individual contributors or employees of the organization. Now, why does it have to be a collaborative process? right? It could be very well a top-driven process where people, the manager says that, okay, these are my goals and this is what you have to do.
Right.
Right? But if you don't make it a collaborative process, if you don't involve the individual in the process, there is no sense of accountability or ownership. Right? So what typically would end up happening is, why should I do this? You know, my boss told me to do it. I will do only so much. Right? He told me go and approach 10 stores to increase my sales. I will go and approach only 10 stores. If I have set the goal for myself, saying that, okay, my organization has to grow by say 20% in this year, and therefore my department has to go and increase the footprint across say 60 stores in this region, out of which I can contribute as an individual salesperson. If I can contribute to say 15 stores, fantastic. I own that goal because I have set out to achieve it. My boss is not telling me. My boss has told me that I have to go and increase the sales or increase the footprint in this particular region. Now, when I set the goals for myself, I sit in discussion with my manager and I tell him that, okay, in my capacity, I think I can do 15. He might suggest that you can do 20. But then if you have a discussion and you arrive at a mutual decision, right? Then you own that goal and therefore you start performing accordingly. Right? And that is the whole reason, in my opinion, why it has to be a collaborative process.
Right? So, yeah. So Dr. Palekar, you know, many organizations who till now do not follow this collaborative process, I think your opinions will help them a lot, because many times people think that, you know, giving the responsibility to the employees and making the process collaborative will discourage the employees to perform, but rather, as you mentioned, that it will increase their responsibility and their accountability and will eventually lead to a greater performance, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is like whether you want to spoon feed your child or you want to train your child to grow up into a responsible individual.
Right. Absolutely.
Right. So as mothers, and I always bring these anecdotes very often, right? So as a mother, if you end up feeding your child all the time till the child is 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, when will the child learn to eat with his or her own hands? They struggle in the first day of school when they have to eat their own tiffin boxes.
Right.
Right? So it's a very similar process. So unless you give them the independence, they will not realize that it is their own responsibility. And surely people will fumble, people will fall, right? But you have to give them that space and give them that hand to support them.
Right.
Right? You have set out to achieve or go and increase your sales in 15 stores, right? But if you face any difficulties while approaching these stores as a manager, I am responsible to help you go and make roadways in those stores.
Right.
Rather not reprimand you because you have not achieved those goals of 15 stores. Right? And once people or the managers and the employees work together, it really, really will make the organization successful.
Sure.
It's a mindset change. And I have actually done these kind of change management exercises with a lot of organizations, and they have actually struggled. And especially, see, when you are with younger organizations, it is different. If you go to traditional organizations, there are people who have a lot of inhibitants that how can I give away this responsibility?
Right.
I am in the telling mode where I have to tell people what they do. And it's not that manager's fault. It is the kind of upbringing we have had for so many years. Right? So if you look at the way we have been even taught in schools, right? You don't have to compare what is happening in the schools today. There is a lot of change that is happening in the current education system. But if you look at the traditional school systems where my generation or my previous generation have studied, we were never allowed to think in some sense, right? You ask a question, you were reprimanded by your teacher.
Exactly.
Your teacher would always tell you that this is how you have to solve a problem, and you solve it that way. You are not allowed to question her. Why? And we come with that mindset, and we bring that mindset to the organizations. And when we bring that mindset to the organizations, these problems arise. And therefore, I say it's a mindset change. It has to be a collaborative process for individual development, for organization development, for success.
Absolutely. The example that you brought about the school, I think many people will associate with that, because the mindset that we bring about from the school is something which actually stays during the initial time of our journey,
Absolutely.
career, professional developmental journey. Yeah.
Absolutely, because those are the life experiences which mold you.
Right.
Right. And it all depends on that. Like I was reading an article, I'm sorry if I'm taking away a lot of time around this, but I was reading an article, I don't remember the name of the author, but this person had brought in perspectives of how organizations themselves operated differently in different phases. Right. So if you look at how General Motors operated when they began, there was a lot of influence of the World War II.
Right.
Right. Then you come to an age of computers where, we're talking about disruptive technologies. Right. Now, even when it came to the age of computers, we always followed what the technology would enable us to. We did not think about disruption. But now look at what this pandemic has done to us.
Truly.
Right? This disruption has happened all of a sudden. Never would you have imagined that you would interview me over a Zoom platform.
Right.
Right? We would have probably done it in an office setting, in a office space, in a virtual center or something of that sort.
Sure.
Right? So that's how the mindset changes have to happen. And a lot of influence comes from our life experiences, what's happening in the environment around us. And we have to keep that in mind as we start operating in our professional and personal lives as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So coming to my next question, which is actually, an extension of the previous point that you mentioned about the cascading of the goals, right? Yeah. So as you mentioned that goal cascading is extremely important, but do you think it is always practical and effective if we cascade the goals from, organization to the department to the individual goals?
See, when you talk about effectiveness of the goal, what does effectiveness of the goal mean? It has to be achievable.
Right.
Right? Now, if there is no alignment, then what are you going to achieve? A goal is something that you set out to achieve. Right? Now, when we're talking about cascading, the practicality most people struggle is when you have goals which are not quantifiable. Right? Now, if you typically look at the organization goals, you will, and it's a very popular model, where you use the balanced scorecard.
Okay.
Right? Most organizations will end up using balanced scorecard as a tool to set out their organization goals. Mm-hmm. Now, not every aspect of your organization goal can be cascaded down to every individual, but there surely is some relevance. Right? Now, let me take an example of how you will cascade down goals from an organization to the finance department or to the HR department, which are supposed, or even the marketing department, the support functions, right? They are the ones who struggle the most. Mm-hmm. For a production department or for a technical delivery department in a software setup, it's relatively easy. Right? But when you talk about support functions, it is difficult because you don't know how you're going to see what the organization is set out to do. Right? So now let's take an example. And I think this will kind of, give a little perspective to the viewers on how this is going to help, how this really would work. Right? Now, suppose the organization has set out with a goal saying that in this particular year, we are going to expand our footsteps in 3 new markets. Right? and I say that I want to set out my company's footprints in Calcutta.
Okay.
Now, for salespeople, it is very easy because they know that they have to go seek clients and they have to build a plan around that. What is the goal for the marketing department here? The marketing department has to go and create awareness in that market, do market research on what sort of clientele, what sort of industries, where will my product fit? Right? So you will have plans around that for the marketing department. For the HR department, it becomes very clear that given this, I have to now start focusing on how I'm going to draw talent in these locations. Right? How am I going to ensure that the kind of structure that the organization has built in the head office, say at Bangalore, how does that translate back into the Calcutta office? So that could be another goal. How will it transfer to a finance department? It could be very simple, saying that I have to ensure that my software solutions that I'm using, right, for my Bangalore office, I have to ensure that it is scalable to other locations.
Right.
Now, within India, okay. If I'm moving outside India, is my solution compliant with the financial laws of the other countries?
Mm-hmm.
Or for that matter, even within India, are the tax laws different for different countries? So that is how this one goal of growing in 3 different locations is cascading down to every department. Now, the question a lot of people would end up having is, fine, it's easy to, cascade it down like this, but then how do I measure it?
Yes.
Are all goals measurable? Should we have measurable goals? Right? And that is a question a lot of people really struggle with. There are a lot of different opinions that are running around in the industry, in the research community around whether goals should be measured, whether they should not be measured, how they should be tracked, and should they be outcome based, should they be process based, or how. So in my opinion, I think when you're talking about cascading the goals to different levels, we are also talking about how can people really own it. And when they have to own it, they need to know that there is some result that is coming out of it.
Right.
Right? Now, this result could be a number or it could be a self-development. Right? Now, take a competency goal, for example, a behavioral competency goal. And it's very popular these days in the organizations that every individual has their own set of competency goals that they have to achieve based on whatever are the organization competencies and, based on the competency framework. Now, how do you really measure a competency goal? It's so qualitative, it is so subjective, right? So what do people do in these kind of situations? See, one of the most easiest way, I would say, if not easiest, one of the ways to measure a competency is by not measuring it.
Okay.
Right? You don't really have to give a rating.
Mm-hmm.
Saying that you have achieved a 4 on 5. How can you even measure somebody's behavior as a 4 on 5? Right? But if you are able to have a conversation with an individual, with your subordinate, or with, even for that matter, in a 360 with your peer or your superior, that these are some of the changes that I have seen in you, that itself is a good measure to say that you have been progressing. Right? So for example, if you look at, say, communication skills as a competency, a behavioral competency that you want to build on.
Right.
Right? Now, within behavioral competency, say, within communication skills as a competency, say you have taken building my public speaking skills as a competency that I want to work on, or a skill that I want to work on. Now, within public speaking, you have realized that I don't make eye contact when I speak in front of 15 people in a room. right? Now, if you are able, if you want to quantify it, how will you quantify it? You will say that in my next presentation, I will have a buddy who will sit with me in the room and will count how many times I made the eye contact.
Right.
And then I put up in my goal saying that within 6 months, I will move my eye contact with 15 people from say 0 to all 15.
Mm-hmm.
And then you will track that progress. It's not feasible.
True.
Right? But if you have somebody who is observing you and giving you a constant feedback, saying that, you know what, Dipnita, today you were far better than what you were last time. You did not fumble. You did make eye contact. You could be better.
Mm-hmm.
That itself is a good feedback for you to gather and then put that as an achievement in your goal process. But it is important that you have a goal around it. If you do not have a goal around it, then you will never work on it. You'll keep pushing it. We all have this habit of procrastinating things, right?
True.
I'll not do it today. I'll do it tomorrow. Next time, next time, next time. And that next time never comes. And therefore, it is important that you have these goals. How you measure it, you define the measure. For goals which are not quantifiable. For quantifiable goals, it is very easy. You use a SMART and, it's very easy to then set an actionable goal.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, so we got the answers of both our questions. That is why cascading is important and how it is also very important to bring in the concept of measurements in terms of the competency or the behavioral goals, which most of the times we miss out, right? Because most of the time it becomes very subjective in nature when we ask someone else to rate it, but we do not know at what basis we are receiving the rating. So as you mentioned, the steps which can be done, it starts from the individual itself. It's very important.
Absolutely. And therefore, link it back to your first question.
Yeah.
It has to be a collaborative process. How will you own it otherwise?
True. Absolutely.
Right. So and then you link it back to your self-development.
Yes.
Because if I'm doing this, I'm developing myself as an individual. And it's not only on competencies, right?
Right.
Even on your regular KPIs that you will set or KRAs that you will set. Mm-hmm. If you achieve it, it is boosting your confidence. You are moving to the next level.
Right.
And next level need not necessarily mean next level in the organization, but in your thinking, you're moving to the next level. You are building your own capabilities.
Absolutely.
And once individuals start looking at it in that fashion, it will, I hope every individual looks at it in that fashion, but it'll be a different world. I mean, you will find more satisfied employees.
True, absolutely true. Yeah. Because, satisfaction, as you said, that not only comes from promotion in terms of the designation, but it also depends on the personal development and the professional development we can do through this learnings and through this journey, right?
Absolutely bang on.
Great. So, now coming to my next question, it is on the sub goals. As you said that, it is very important to clearly define the expectations of the organization to the employees, right? So in that scenario, how important it is to have sub goals for the goals or the greater objectives of the organization, and why it is important?
Now, what you're talking about is nothing but a task or a job task that leads you to achieve your larger goal. Mm-hmm. Right? So your goal is typically a larger objective, an overall objective that you have. What leads you to it are the tasks. And you may want to term it a sub-goal. The goals are, the terminology can vary. Right? But unless you have that, how will you reach? You want to reach the moon, but if you don't have a spacecraft, how will you reach the moon?
True.
Right? And therefore, it is important to have those tasks in place. You should know your path. And therefore, you will see the popularity of OKRs that is happening these days.
True.
Right? OKRs does exactly the same. You have an objective and then you have your key result areas. And these key result areas are in some sense the tasks that help you achieve those key objectives. It's just that they're breaking it down into smaller ones and not putting it up to a larger. I mean, this is a very simplistic form of explaining OKRs. There is a lot of complex thought that goes into it, but in a very simplistic fashion, that's what it is, right? You have an objective, you have 6 steps that I will take to reach that objective. You can term the sub goals, you can term them as key result areas, or you can term them as tasks or whatever. So it is the only way in which you can reach your goal. So I think over the generations, over the way industry has moved, people are seeking clarity because we are behind quick results.
Okay.
Right? And forget the quick results part of it, but having more clarity in your own thought process does not allow you to keep beating around the bush.
True.
Right? Because then you know exactly how, it's so structured. And there are different formats in which you will set up your goals. But the most simplistic form is you have an objective, you have a measure to it, you have a metric to it, and you have a target around it. Everything is just so clear. So just in case, for some reason, you step out or step away from that particular role and somebody else has to step in for a short while, they exactly know what you have to do and how you have to do it.
Okay.
Right? So be it you're moving out of the organization, or be it you stepping into a different role all of a sudden, taking on more responsibilities, and you have somebody else who's coming into your role, that person exactly knows what is expected to do, at least to begin with, before he starts setting up goals, he or she starts setting up goals for himself or herself. And therefore, it is important that you, have that entire process in place and do it the way it is supposed to be done.
True. Understood.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Palekar, if we talk, as we are talking about the sub goals now, as you said, the sub goals are the fancy term for the tasks that are set, So, too many tasks can also hamper the actual purpose of setting sub goals or clarity, because the clarity part, starts fading a little bit if we add too many tasks to it. So what, in your opinion, is the ideal number of sub goals that should be set for an objective or for the larger goal, so that the clarity part remains well as it doesn't become burdensome as well?
See, in my opinion, and I would tend to disagree with you that you can set a particular number of sub goals. No, you can, in what you can achieve if you're setting yearly goals, what the number of goals you can have in a year, you can probably try and put an upper cap to that.
Okay.
You cannot put an upper cap to the sub goals or the tasks, right? Because if you have, say, 5 objectives in your KRAs, you will have to do whatever are the 5-10 steps to achieve that particular objective. Right. That is not going to add burden to what you are expected to achieve, to achieve that particular goal. Right? If that is happening, which means the goal that you have set is not an achievable goal, then you have to go back and revisit your original objective or original goal.
Right.
Right? Ideally, you should not see, again, now you have to understand the difference in between what are the objectives, what are the tasks, whatever are your day-to-day tasks. They do not get into your goals. That's not a part of your goal setting process.
Yes.
Right? What goes into your goal setting process are your core objectives or core purpose of being in that organization. True. Or being in that role. Right? Apart from that, there will be 10 other things that you will want to do and you would be involved in. Right? For example, supporting your peer group on whatever difficulties they have. That may not be a part of your goal.
Right.
Right? But that's something that you end up doing every day. Now, do you want to add that as a part of your tasks? Question mark. Right? But that's something that you will end up doing.
True.
Yeah, so you have to first in your own head have clarity on what is a goal that gets into my KRA, what's my larger objective, and what is it that I need to do to achieve these larger objectives, which could be a sub goal or a task or whatever you want to call it. You cannot put up an upper number to the number of sub goals, right? And therefore, the way you plan your activities around achieving that objective, you will have to phase them out maybe. And therefore, you have quarterly goals. Some people have monthly goals. And again, a very simple example could be around sales. And I think that's the most easiest way to explain, right? So if you take achieving 20% growth, I have to target 30 stores. Now, do I target all the 30 stores in the first month itself? No. Then I put up a plan saying that first month I target 2. I learn from those, what difficulties I face. Then I target the 4 in the next 2 months. And then I target another 6 in the next 3 months. And I keep learning from every interaction that I have had. And therefore improve my interactions. And therefore I achieve my 30 at the end of the year.
Right. Understood.
Right? Yeah.
So the last question, Dr. Palekar, that I have for you is, there are various zero target goals that are set in the organizations. Like, for example, if we talk about the customer complaints, where in many cases they said that you have to have 0 customer complaints in this month or in this quarter, right? So how can those goals be approached in an organization? Like evaluating and calculating those goals, how can that be approached in an organization?
Okay. When you're talking about zero target goals, right? The first thing that organizations need to have clarity on is, do they have their matrix in place to actually capture all this information?
Okay.
If they say that I want no complaints from the customer, is your product so good that the customer is not going to put up a complaint? Now, instead of putting that as a metric, organizations might want to think of saying, tracking the quality of complaints.
Okay.
Right? Why did a customer complain? Assess those complaints and then say that, okay, these are the kind of complaints that are coming in, out of which we think that these 5 categories are in our control, and we will put up a zero target, or we will say that minimal 2% error is what we will give to the customer service executive to solve these complaints. But what are not in our control, we will not track them.
Okay.
Right? I mean, imagine a call center fellow calls me today and tells me that, ma'am, I want to sell a credit card to you. I'm in a bad mood and I scream at him, saying that, why the hell did you call me without even informing me? Not even asking me, am I busy or what? Is it that fellow's mistake? No. It's my mistake because I was in a bad mood and I unnecessarily reprimanded him. But he will get reprimanded in his organization because these calls get recorded. And they'll say, okay, a customer screamed at you. Because the organization is not going to analyze, why did the customer, was it in his control or her control? No. So that is the whole purpose of saying that categorize the kind of feedbacks you're getting, or categorize the zero target goals that you're giving to your employees. Giving a zero error goal in your accounts is possible. It's easy to track, right? And a mistake there is going to be fatal.
True.
Because you have technology to support you, you have a human eye to look at it. In spite of this, I would still not recommend a fully 0% goal there, a zero target goal there. Right? But where you can really track it you can still have it. However, when you are actually doing your evaluation, I think it is very, very important for the managers to consider the reasons why somebody has not been able to achieve it. And that need not necessarily be only for a zero target goal, but for any other goal. Because in every goal, there are multiple factors that impact the achievement of that particular goal.
True.
Not everything is in the individual's hand. The individual can put in 100%, 150% of the effort, but if there is something which is out of his or her control, they might not achieve that target.
Okay.
Right? For me to convert or get 30 stores on board, I went and approached 300 stores. But I could get only 25 on board. And why I did not get the remaining 5, these are the reasons for it. If my manager does not look at these 5 reasons or reasons for not getting these 5, then my effort of approaching these 300 stores has gone down the drains. Right? And therefore, it is important to capture all this information before you give any sort of a rating to any individual, because you are, and at the end of it, you are playing with the confidence of that particular individual.
True.
How you help that individual to move to the next level is where your skill as a manager lies. And you should always keep that in mind. So goal setting process puts up a structure. It gives some thought to the chaotic processes that will be around us. But that is not the ultimatum, in my opinion. Right? It is always a give and take process. It is always something where you have conversations and you help the person boost his confidence rather than just put him down saying that you've not done it.
True.
Right? If it is consistent, you have to go back and analyze why has this person not been able to hit a particular goal or a particular number for so many years. If it's happening for like say 3 years. Right? These days organizations don't give you 3 years, but I'm just saying, if somebody's not been able to achieve it consistently, then you go back and analyze, probably that person is not fit for that particular role. He's probably good at something else. Yeah. So these are some of the factors that organizations should also keep in mind when they're doing all this goal setting processes around. Yeah.
So they need to understand why the employees have not been able to achieve the goals for a long period of time, and that should lead to the how of the aspect, right? Like how
Absolutely.
can that skill be improved, what can be done
Absolutely.
so that the achievement becomes easier.
Absolutely. And even beyond that, you should have a heart-to-heart continuous feedback, continuous improvement process inbuilt, so that the person is much aware of where he is heading to. See, you can't call the person at the end of the year and tell her or tell him that you've not achieved it.
True.
Did you ever go back any time through the year to understand what was he or she going through?
True.
What difficulties did the person face? Right? Did you give enough inputs? Did you provide enough leeway? Did you provide enough guidance to that individual to achieve his or her goals?
Absolutely.
It's a complete package. You can't just cut it off saying that, okay, I have set my goals for the year and at the end of the year, I'll come and assess it. It's a continuous process. And traditionally, a lot of organizations have failed in giving continuous feedbacks. You will, even today, you will find organizations will have a so-called continuous feedback process, but how you implement it, whether it is getting implemented, and whether it is getting implemented with the sole purpose of giving feedbacks, whether it is happening from the heart, is what needs to be assessed all the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Palekar. It was so nice getting to know the perspectives you have on goal settings. And through goal settings, we got to learn so many other things as well, like the importance of having the continuous feedback process and using it as a mechanism to understand the problems that individuals are facing in order to the achievement of goals, right? As well as, as you mentioned, that a collaborative process brings in more responsibility and accountability for the achievement of the goals, having the cascading goals facility in the organization so that the entire organization has goals that are aligned with the main strategic goal of the organization. Every other aspects of the goal setting, where I think all the viewers and all the listeners who will be listening to this and viewing this will find it extremely helpful in implementing the goal setting process in their organization.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. Absolutely my pleasure, Dipnita. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you so much.